All right, you've almost made it. Welcome to the fourth and final video for this week. Pat yourself on the back. You're almost there and hang in there. This is probably going to be the shortest of the four. All right, so we're going to move on to think about ongoing monitoring and then positive attention in the classroom and how that can improve behavior in your classroom. So this slide presents the idea of catching children being good. And a lot of this is going to be review from what we touched upon last week. So there are two important issues here in this slide. The first is giving children attention, and this is verbal and nonverbal attention when they're engaged in appropriate behaviors. So too often, we leave children alone when they're playing quietly or when things are going along smoothly in our early childhood settings. But this is a great opportunity to be providing feedback for their effort, thinking, and problem solving, right? So examples are things like, what a great idea, brilliant thinking and figuring that out, versus emphasizing the quality of work that's happening. For example, you did a dynamite job in coloring that entire picture. Balance positive feedback and encouragement with engaging children in authentic conversations. You don't want to engage in a monologue of continual feedback to a child, right? We want that to be kind of like a tennis game. You imagine a serve and a response. We're trying to create a back and forth interaction with the child. So adults also need to monitor their own behavior to make sure that we're spending more time using positive, descriptive language and less of our time giving directions or correcting inappropriate behaviors that are happening in our classrooms. Um, okay, so we're gonna think here about some positive feedback and encouragement in the classroom. So the first thing on our list is contingent on appropriate behavior. So for example, when Cameron hangs his coat in his cubby, you can acknowledge it by saying, Cameron, thank you so much for hanging up your coat all by yourself. When you observe Patrick washing his hands before lunch, you can give him positive feedback with a thumbs up and verbally describing what it is that he did. So we want to be descriptive. So rather than just saying good job or thanks, you provide a brief description of the behavior that you just observed. And this feedback helps children know exactly what the behavior is that you would like to see them repeat. So, for example, you might say, thanks for hanging your coat up all by yourself, Cameron. You sure are getting big. Wow, Patrick, you just washed your hands all by yourself without Miss Ellie or me even telling you to do it, right? So these are very descriptive ways of providing feedback to children. And you want to convey it with enthusiasm. So tone of voice and facial expressions, being down on a child's level at the timeliness and the timeliness of like when that positive feedback is being delivered are all really important components that affect the spirit in which positive feedback is accepted by the child. Um, you know, Children love some positive feedback from adults, and as we know, they will typically do many, many things to get our attention. And so, yes, the good and even the not so good behaviors. Our enthusiasm when we deliver that feedback conveys to children that we're paying attention to them, that their behaviors matter to us, and that we celebrate their accomplishments. Think of the numbers of times that you've heard a young child say, Teacher, teacher, I did it, or look what I made, or what do you think of this? It makes us smile just remembering like the enthusiasm of young children when they've mastered a new skill or they try something that they've never done before, right? Okay. Um, so here we're going to think about different ways to give encouragement and feedback beyond the simple good job. Think about other ways to verbally give feedback and ways to give nonverbal feedback and encouragement as well. Get out there and do a Google search that's alternatives to good job, and I bet you will find hundreds of amazing ways to provide positive feedback and encouragement to children. And you could probably get good job out of your vocabulary forever, and I don't think that would be a bad thing. So giving nonverbal feedback, also an acknowledgement, are They're signs of appreciation, and it's a really important strategy that we very often as teachers overlook. We don't have to say something to provide feedback to children. We can do something with our body language or maybe our facial expressions, right? So providing children with those warm fuzzies might be hugs and high fives and winks and thumbs up and lots and lots of other ways. We do need to remember the types of positive feedback and encouragement need to be individualized for every child. So, for example, some children may not feel comfortable being encouraged in front of a big group. They may be really embarrassed by being singled out, and others might really like to be encouraged in front of the whole class. So, we've got to look at the individual preferences of every child. There also may be cultural variations on what's typical or acceptable. Um, Here's an example of that, right? So we have a 4-year-old Kunal, right? It's a 4-year-old boy who who's really struggled to be independent and was extremely persistent. And after trying for many minutes to complete a task, like riding his bike up a little incline and making lots of slips backwards, he'd get really angry when his efforts were acknowledged, right? So he would even say, "Don't say you did it." Or, if someone's patting his back as he finally pedaled away, he'd cry out, "No, don't pat me." So for Kunal, the challenge and then the ultimate success, although stressful and frustrating for him at times, was rewarding enough in the moment. Nothing needed to be said or done. And his parents learned that for him by bringing up these successes later, like at bedtime, when they're reviewing the day, or hugging him and telling him how proud they were that he was able to learn to ride his bike so well, that these were all better strategies for providing positive feedback for Kunal than acknowledging it in the moment. And so it really is important for us to learn and understand and support and recognize the individual preferences of the children that are in our class. Encourage other adults and peers to use positive feedback and encouragement. This idea is a real key to increasing children's appropriate behaviors in your class. The impact of positive feedback and encouragement can be increased by ensuring that children are encouraged from multiple sources. It shouldn't just be from you, it should be from parents and the other teachers and adults in your classroom, and even from their peers and friends. Encouragement from more than one person is more likely to have a positive impact on a child's behavior. So consider this example as a way that this impact can be increased. So we have Kendall, who's acknowledged by his teacher at school and given a certificate about his good behavior that is attached to his coat. So the bus driver acknowledges him as Kendall gets on the bus heading home, and then both of his parents acknowledge his appropriate behavior at home. So by using this strategy of sending home a complimentary note, the teacher has helped Kendall receive 3 different pieces of information about his behavior with one simple note. So it was from mom and dad and the bus driver, and they've all commented on what Kendall did that day, right? So how terrific. And I think I think we're going to end it here. So as you work through this week's discussions and assignments and very short other reading assignments that we have, if you have questions, please reach out to me by email. You're welcome to use our instructor's virtual office. Email will probably get you the fastest response. And then we haven't had a hot topic in a week, and I just wanted to remind you that there is a virtual cafe that you can access from our class homeroom. And so if you're experiencing any hot topics or challenging issues in your class that you would like to share and get some feedback with the rest of us, your classmates or me, that is a great place for you to post those scenarios or to share anything that you like. And with that, I will shut up and leave you and wish you all a good week.